What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Philly Sports Pulse Pod. Uh, just want to welcome Adam back to the show. Welcome back to the great state of Pennsylvania.
You.
We got a lot to go over in today's show. So first off, Adam, we gotta talk about this Niners game. You kind of called it, buddy. You called it. Give me some of your thoughts. That was
Yeah,
awful. That was absolutely awful.
yeah. I mean, Jesse, we talked about it a week ago, right? This is an Philadelphia Eagles team that simply needed to be out of their own way in order to win this football game, and they were unable to. They were outclassed, I would say, schematically in pretty much every way. Robert Saleh's defense and the performance that they put together against this Philadelphia Eagles offense is one that will go down as we look at these NFL playoffs in the future as a historic one. And their ability to withhold the run game from any success. Despite being the worst run defense in football over the course of this season and playing their fifth and sixth string linebackers. And then just their ability to really confuse and prevent the passing game from getting anything done. With how great their secondary played throughout the course of this game, especially, on those outbreaking routes and preventing Jalen Hurts from getting into any kind of rhythm, especially in that second half. So it was frustrating, it was mesmerizing, and it was truly deflating. And now it's over.
It is. It is. Now I guess you can definitely point to a couple of things. Um, and it's kind of how the Bears game went to an extent. I said it once. I'll say it again. The strategy to beating the Philadelphia Eagles is to make that defense bend and bend and bend and bend and bend. And with a trick play that the Niners ran, that's one hell of a way to make the defense break. Honestly, I could not get that throw in um, to CMC uh, out of my head that night. But that's something that you really you cannot you can't exactly prepare for. You can't exactly practice for. But there were a few guys on defense that I thought could have had definitely a better game. Bree Blankenship being one, but the guy to me, and we'll kind of get into his whole situation. It's got to be AJ Brown, man. I we he talked the whole season about like not getting the ball, and then he gets the ball, and he's gotten the ball a couple. It's the Eagles kind of feels like they've force fed him a little bit. Uh, and when he's gotten the ball, there have been these key moments where he's ended up, sort of, not showing up when the lights are brightest, which is really really unfortunate. But at the same time, this whole thing, with AJ Brown like wanting to get traded, to me it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. Because I think to me the guy that the Eagles should be kind of prioritizing in trade talks, or in that trade in the free agency scheme, and it feels to me like it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to leave. It's Dallas Goddard.
Mm.
He to me, he's been one of the Eagles' most consistent playmakers outside of like Devontae Smith, and I really don't think people are giving him enough credit. Whenever they had drawn up these plays, these slant routes up the middle, I swear to God, like I don't have the numbers on me, and Adam, I'm assuming you may, but his like contested catch rate and his hand to ball skills, up the middle, like it's consistently, to me, one of the top. It's consistently the greatest, and I don't know why you would just want to let somebody like that go, especially with the lack of depth in your tight end position. Like, yes, you have Frank Alcantara and Jack Stoll, but you're telling me that they are NFL worthy tight ends? Come on. Like, be serious, dog.
Yeah, I mean, you make some valid points there, Jesse. I think before we dive into what next, I think we do have to hammer home the issues that really do continue to plague the Eagles from a roster perspective in this game that show up before we start talking about what's next. And I think the biggest place to start there is the interior offensive line, right? And you see it within this game again. The inside run game is as non-existent as it's been because of the struggles of Landon Dickerson, Tyler Steen, and Cam Jurgens against one of the worst run defenses in football. They aren't able to really create any creases. Everything the Philadelphia Eagles are able to get in their run game came on outside zone type plays, and on Saquon Barkley being able to make moves in space. It was not on the interior. So that's definitely an issue there. But I think with the Dallas Goedert question comes the cap space question. And that's been a big thing throughout this offseason. And I think the interior offensive line and the cornerback position, where you're going to be losing Adoree Jackson again, are the two places which I think have to be prioritized financially, given their importance as positions on the football field and given their struggles going into next year. You can't go into next year with the same starting five combination on your interior offensive line, whether that's you address that through the draft or you address that through free agency. I truly believe that. I don't think you can start Tyler Steen going into next year, and I don't think you can go into next year questioning the health of guys like Dickerson and Jurgens as you were going into this year. And so if that means Dallas Goedert is a casualty, honestly, I'm fine in that regard, because the way I viewed him, I actually thought this was the worst season of his career, and I think the numbers point to that. I thought he was a subpar blocker over the course of this season, and as a route runner, it just never really stood out to me. When he was within this offense, he was a nice kind of third option because defenses did so well and playing cloud coverage early in the season against AJ Brown and taking away Devontae Smith over the middle of the field because of the simplicity of the routes that he was running. And so, Dallas Goedert ended up being the third progression where you kind of check it down. He gets 5 yards and that's fine. And they did creative things with him in the red zone. I'm sure Kevin Patullo will tell you that. There's all the reports of Kevin Patullo telling everybody, hey, look at what I'm doing with Dallas Goedert in the red zone. That's why I should keep my job.
I mean, listen, they had they were really good in the red zone. Yeah. The problem is they couldn't find the red zone.
Yep. There were some pretty cool plays. They had that. They had the pitch to him on the fullback toss in the red zone in this game. I was like, man, Kevin Patullo, you were in the room on that one. You were really drawing that one up. 3 plays later, inside zone for a loss of 3 against the San Francisco 49ers interior defensive line. I was like, man, that's the Kevin Patullo I know. But I think it's going to be a question.
One of the plays that really stuck out to me. Mm-hmm. The last one, the very last one on 4th down, the whole situation. Jalen Hurts goes to the sideline, and I don't know if you saw, I don't know if you saw the look on his face when he was talking to KP. Yeah. He looks at Sirianni and he just goes like, what the hell am I listening to?
Yeah,
and and then they end up throwing it in triple coverage. That's your play design, triple coverage.
Yeah, well, it's the same problem we've talked about all season, Jesse, and that is the route progressions, right? I mean, the hitch route rate, if you look at it in this game, it's the highest in the NFL once again. It was about a 40% rate in this wild card game, and I mean, the 49ers were able to snuff out the simplicity of it. It's as simple as that. You're going to need to bring in a coordinator, and I'm sure we're going to dive into the offensive coordinator candidates and who we think it should be and what we think the offense should look like. But it has to be a guy who brings more diversity into this offense. You look at the numbers in the Kellen Moore years, hitch and slant routes draw around a 30% rate, but they're using motion in a more meaningful way to create separation for their wide receivers, and they're running more routes as well. You look at A.J. Brown's charts, Devontae Smith's charts, they're very different. So I'm one of the people who has emphasized that even in the Kellen Moore years, schematically, even in the Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen years, schematically, this Philadelphia Eagles offense is a little bit behind, I would say, the modern NFL and what they're doing and how they're running things. They're a little bit simplistic in comparison, but I think there is a way for this to work without completely overhauling things, and that is simply by making improvements in the depth pieces to make this a similar roster to how it was a year ago, and I think that's possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's get into some offensive coordinator candidates because immediately afterward, there's been a couple that have been floated around. Kevin Stefanski being one, Cliff Kingsbury being one, Mike McDaniel being one, Tonkin, the Ravens former offensive coordinator, Mike Monken, yes, and then another one that just makes me want to die inside, Brian Daboll.
Really?
I'm sorry. I get the connection. I get that he played with Hurts in Alabama. I get that he played with Smitty in Bama. I want a winning coach.
Yeah.
And I want a person that is a proven schematic. That I want somebody that's proven, and I want somebody that wins.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Daboll, he does none of that.
I push back.
The New York Giants. That's all. That's all you got to say.
I know, but where I push back on that is Buffalo, right? Because he's offensive coordinator for what, 2 years, and completely transforms Josh Allen's career in the way that he does that. I think we forget about that chapter of his life. So I think that's where it's fair to say, hey, this is a guy who you could bring in. Who, I mean, I don't think he's some kind of incredibly savvy offensive mind. I don't think anything in New York would tell you that, but he's a level of stability that they simply haven't had. He's a proven play caller at the NFL level who knows how to do this. He knows how to work with a mobile quarterback, right? You look at what he did with Daniel Jones in those years, and marrying the read option with, the passing game and getting his quarterback outside of the pocket to move in throwing plays and different plays, working outside of structure. I think, he in my eyes is a fine choice. It's not a sexy choice, but it's a fine choice.
Yeah. Another one that I had in mind, and honestly, he might be my number one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Really?
I really like. I think this NFL it's turning into the era of the mobile quarterback. Mm-hmm. You've seen that with Josh Allen. You've seen that with Lamar. Now you're seeing it with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I really like what he sort of brought to the table last year, and I think one of the biggest reasons that the Commanders didn't have as much success as they have in years past, well, specifically last year, was because of that injury bug. You know, I like the move potentially of bringing Cliff Kingsbury in. Uh, what are your thoughts on that potential move?
Yeah, I think Cliff Kingsbury is the ultimate high floor, low ceiling. And for a year for this current window, for just giving them some kind of stability offensively, maybe that's fine. I think the joke that I always make with my buddies about Cliff Kingsbury is that first year is going to be fantastic, right? Because you've come in and he's going to bring all these college ideas to your playbook, and this kind of uh, old school, like, simple, get the ball out quickly, air raid offense, like, that's Cliff Kingsbury. That's what he does. And that's what he was able to do with Jaden Daniels last year. They were able to make throws easy for him within this offense, not force him to do too much and create too much. When it goes beyond that, it gets a little difficult. You look in the later Kyler years, there was a lot of criticism of him and not really allowing Kyler to develop as kind of a middle of the field thrower, not utilizing him in the run game in complex enough ways. I think he is limited as a play caller to what he's good at, and generally runs his course in most places. But if you're just looking at like a ground floor, I think I'd absolutely be in favor of a guy like Kingsbury. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Another one, and this is one that I am a little torn with. Mike McDaniel. Um, to me, what stands out with him
Mhm.
is the Tua situation,
Mhm.
and him basically running Tua into the ground with these concussion things. I really think I think there's a little bit of blame that there's one that Tua is just being the new era Carson Wentz and being a little bit too risky on certain plays. The other is that Mike McDaniel is the one that draws up the plays, and he's the ones that calls them and then executes them, and it is the big reason why Tua Tagovailoa has now what 4 or 5, uh, you know, two or 4 or 5, concussions. Uh, and I think suffice to say that would absolutely kill me, and it would probably kill the Eagles if Jalen Hurts sort of had the same career trajectory as Tua Tagovailoa, because I think you're at a point with him where the brain damage it piles up, after a bunch of these hits, and I don't know if you're ever going to be the same after that sort of thing. But I don't know. Do you think Mike McDaniel would be the guy in Philly?
Yeah, in my eyes, McDaniel is a slam dunk. He is, everything you would potentially want. I think the Eagles should be, essentially throwing themselves at this guy. I would be very hesitant to connect any kind of Tua injury stuff with McDaniel and his offense, because McDaniel's offense essentially was the desire to get the ball out quickly over the middle of the field for Tua, right? It is a lot of that quick passing game. It's working to Tua's strengths. The issue with Tua is that Tua has at times a recklessness in his ability to escape crowded pockets that has led into him, sliding and diving into kind of concussion wary situations. And so that is more what I would have to blame for Tua's injury history. I wouldn't involve McDaniel's offense in that. And lucky for us, you have a quarterback who is actually usually on the other side being put at fault for not putting himself in enough dangerous situations as far as himself as a scrambler because they don't even hand him
Yes.
the football anymore.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would not be worried about that in any sense. I think he, showed in San Francisco that he can be versatile, right? He had a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo who's very different from Tagovailoa, and his strengths didn't quite have the same velocity on the football that Tagovailoa has, or the arm strength. Was still able to work a great offense in him revolving around getting yards after the catch and supporting that. Even the games they call with Quinn Ewers this year, he looked great playing to Ewers' respective strengths. They, utilized their tight ends a lot more, did a lot better job of just working space on the outside and trying to generate holes in a lot of the zone defenses that teams were playing against them. They were playing less man because, it was a different quarterback. So I love Mike McDaniel. I think he's one of the best X's and O's guys in this game. And I mean, the only real issue I can imagine if you end up having him is that there is the likelihood that it will probably only be for a year, because he's going to immediately get hired to be a head coach. But if you're hiring an offensive coordinator that good, that's immediately a worry. I think you're in a pretty good place.
Yeah. Now another one that sort of, again, I'm torn on all these to an extent, but there's a link that the Ole Miss offensive coordinator was linked to the Philadelphia Eagles, and again, like I don't know what to think because they looked good. They looked really good even after Lane Kiffin for a little bit. And then, they eventually they got their butts kicked by who? Miami? Is that?
Yeah, but butts kicked might be a little bit of a stretch. I mean, they were.
Oh, that wasn't the 70. That wasn't the 70. That was was that Bama?
Yeah, Bama got their butts kicked.
Yeah. So I don't know. Interesting idea, but I think that the Eagles' thought is through all this, the word that I keep hearing through reporters that I keep that I'm reading, they want the proven, they want the proven hire. And we're talking about a college coach, so I don't know. It's a risk, but is it a risk that you're willing to take if you're the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, Jesse. I think the biggest thing for me, right, always is, I mean, if you're a playoff team, you want the proven hire, right? You don't want to have to deal with this again. But, I mean, there are so many great young names in this cycle for offensive coordinator that I wouldn't constrict myself to that if it's not going to be McDaniel, who, once again, like, I am full aboard Mike McDaniel train. I can't advocate for that enough. But you have a couple names that I could group in with Weiss as just talented guys who have some Philadelphia Eagles connections. You have Nate Scheelhaas. I think that's how you say his name. He's the Los Angeles Rams passing game coordinator. He's been one of the hottest names in the NFL. What he's been able to do with this Rams offense and how they work themselves, not just in the red zone where they've been one of the most efficient offenses in NFL history, but as a run game where they've pretty much reinvented themselves this year and become less of a shotgun heavy team and more under center, running a lot of power, running a lot of duo, and just completely different to what they were a couple of years ago. They are a revolutionary team, and he could be a big piece there. There's Michael Four, who is another pretty solid name. He also is a member of the Rams. He is the current Rams offensive coordinator. Is he a guy that you look to chase down? The current San Francisco offensive coordinator, whose name I'm forgetting, is another guy whose name I've heard swirled in circles a lot as a potential head coaching candidate down the line. He's a guy you could look at. Davis Webb, who is the Denver Broncos current quarterback coach, is a guy who I really like. He's a young name. They have to work around a lot of flaws with their quarterbacks, limitations as well, and he has done a great job in developing that and developing Bo Nix. So I think there's a lot of these names that you can just throw out there and say, hey, these are really talented guys with a lot on their resume. Maybe give them a shot if they interview well. And guys who I'd view similarly to a guy like Kingsbury or a guy like Diablo, because I think the potential is higher as far as the ceiling, but there is a lower floor, and you're going to have to deal with that. So whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles are willing to deal with that, I think that's a big question. But I like all those names.
Yeah, I really I like the Niners pick because I'm really interested to see what they kind of do against a vaunted Seahawks defense this upcoming week, especially now that you're without George Kittle.
Yeah.
I think what was it confirmed that he has the ACL tear?
Yeah, it was his Achilles, so he's definitely going to be. Yep.
It's yeah, so that's going to be really tough. But if you're somehow able to sort of survive off of that sort of thing, that'd be really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I expect the Seattle Seahawks to run over the 49ers in the same way that they did, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But if they're able to walk into Seattle, create a couple turnovers, and kind of flip that game on its head, I think that speaks even more to what the San Francisco coaching staff's able to do. And Clay Kubiak, that's the name of the Niners offensive coordinator. That's another name to potentially watch here. I know you had said Todd Monken earlier. I think that is a name to mention. Sounds like he's going to be a Giant, which is really stinky. But
Harbaugh's taking him too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it sounds like the reports. So,
yeah,
it's a big one.
I'll tell you what. I do not like this Harbaugh hire if you're the Eagles.
For the sake of the Philadelphia Eagles,
that scares me tremendously.
Yeah. When you're able to bring some kind of continuity into an organization like that, to an organization that's struggled to have so much of it over the course of the last couple of years, like that's always going to be haunting. So
I'll tell you what, though, our buddy JT Dwyer is probably thrilled right now.
Sure.
No, he was thrilled. I talked to him last night about it. Yeah, he's thrilled. I'm sure the Giants are thrilled because especially now that you've got your QB of the future, if you want to call it that, in Jackson Dart, in Scadaboo, who I think he's going to be healthy coming into
probably not by week 1, but
yeah. That makes the division tough again, and it just because I hate to say it, but there were spurts that I saw from the Dallas Cowboys I like what I saw, especially in the the run game. The secondary from time to time is pretty good. That interior line, even without Micah Parsons, there were games where Kenny Clark and that interior line sort of showed up, and then of course George Pickens, who I think everybody wrote off. He was one of the best wide receivers in the league. Honestly, hot take, but I feel like he was.
Not a hot take at all. Not a hot take at all. He's an all-pro. Like he was. He absolutely was. Yeah.
And they got him on a steal of a deal, if I remember. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then, especially now with the Commanders, like we saw what they were we saw what they were 2 years ago healthy. They were good. They were good. And I don't know their free agent situation, but this could be a tough division again, man. I hate that.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I think Dallas is the one you have to point out, right? Because they not just have, what they've brought into the end of this season and kind of momentum, but they also have so much draft capital. They have 2 first-round picks and a couple top 100 picks in this year's draft, and should be able to address a defense which is one of the worst in football pretty easily with young talent. And we know they draft well. That's one of the things that they are so good at and so consistent with. So you have to be scared of that. I was not a big Jackson Dart believer. I'm still really not a big Jackson Dart believer. I think he showed flashes, but was generally pretty inconsistent over the second half of the NFL season. But
wasn't he dealing injury though at the time?
A little bit. I think most of what I tracked it to was just, NFL defenses starting to kind of crack down on the quarterback run game and forcing him to actually, make professional NFL reads and throws, and kind of the slower development curve that comes from him coming from an Ole Miss offense that asked a lot less of him, I think showed a little bit more. But now you give him a guy in Todd Monken who is a pro at developing quarterbacks into more pro-style offenses and give that organization as a whole just some life and consistency. They have a lot of great pieces on both lines of the ball. Like, I think they're going to be a lot more competent and potentially a playoff team next year. And then, like you said, I think Washington has a pretty horrendous outlook on the future. They're one of the oldest rosters in football, but you know what? If you have Jaden Daniels, you have a chance. So, the division as a whole just gets tougher and tougher, and you have to get better. You have to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about some of these games coming up, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We still we got some time to kill.
Yeah.
So and they're gonna be good games. The one that I'm really looking at is that Rams Bears game coming up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at home in Chicago. It's the prime time game, 6:30, and honestly, I kind of smell an upset. I smell an upset. I do, and not just because the not just because of what we saw from the Bears last week against Green Bay, but for what we saw from the Rams against Carolina. Dude, if you're the Rams against Carolina, yikes, man. Matthew Stafford, buddy, yikes. That's a yikes, man. And the Eagles, they played the Bears. We saw, what they can kind of bring to the table. That run game is good. DJ Moore, he is insane apparently. That connection between him and CJ Stroud is ridiculous. Dunze, he is a guy that comes in clutch, it feels like every 5 seconds with these first down catches. And, this defense, they held Jordan Love, which is, to me, not the biggest, achievement in the world, because I will forever believe that Packers offense is a joke. Personally, hashtag Green Bay stinks. But they can step up when they need to, and especially, I don't know how severe it was. I was watching that game and I saw Devontae Adams had a pretty hard hit. So if he's out, you still got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, I think, but I don't know, man. I smell that Chicago crowd. That's good. That's a good crowd. I smell something. I smell something, Adam. I smell an upset.
I don't know, Jesse. I'm a little hesitant on this one, and from last week, kind of where I stand on Chicago is an incredibly impressive win, though, and you have to give all the credit in the world to Ben Johnson, to Caleb Williams, to this Bears offense, and their ability to really find it in the second half, and the Bears defense as well, and their ability to, slow down this Green Bay offense. I thought it was more of a Green Bay problem, to be honest, in their lack of ingenuity and design in that second half against this Bears defense, which kind of tightened up against the run. But I still think that's a great football game played by Chicago on both sides. So where do we go from there? And I think that's the question. Facing up against a Rams team that I think is a lot more talented on the defensive end. I know you alluded to what they struggled with against Carolina. And to be fair, there are similar issues with the potential in this Chicago Bears matchup, right? You think about third down, you think about the Chicago Bears, you think about Caleb Williams bailing outside of structure, attacking these Rams cornerbacks, able to generate giant chunk plays, and you're like, oh man, this could be a shootout. I think the biggest thing that's kind of keeping me from that, in a sense, is that I expect this Rams team to be able to control the ball on the ground a little more than I think they were able to last week. I think, the Packers kind of signaled an ability to do that at times, and I think this Rams run game has been one of the more underrated in football. And so I think if they're able to kind of work that against the Bears interior, which has really struggled over the course of the season, I think they are going to find a lot of success in this game. Now, however, the Rams turn the ball over a lot. We know that. Have turned the ball over a lot over the past couple games. And this Bears defense, what do we talk about? They're prone to take away the football. That is what they do. That is their DNA. So if they're able to force some turnovers in this game, I think that's definitely a key towards, making this a very, very different ball game. But I still absolutely would lean with the team that I trust more on both sides of the ball, I would say. And as a whole, that is the Los Angeles Rams. So I'll take them here.
But I don't know about that special teams, man. That special teams from LA, it scares me. We saw it against Carolina. We saw it against the Eagles. Jordan Davis. They're prone to issues.
Yeah,
I think prone to issues. And the Bears, they are kings of I won't say it on air because we'll get
demonetized. Yeah,
but BS ball.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, but I also think you have to think about, right, that Green Bay Packers team going into that game late. They didn't really have a true ball winner late in that game when they really needed that third and long, right? They were had their backs against the wall against the Chicago Bears team and needed to convert late in that game. They didn't have a Tucker Kraft to be able to step up. Christian Watson, we could tell, wasn't playing fully healthy. This Los Angeles Rams team is Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. And so I trust them as ball winners to be able to go up on these long third downs and find holes in against these Bears corners, which can be a little grabby, can be not the fastest necessarily, even if they're able to come up with a lot of interceptions. So I think that is the advantage that you take if you're this Los Angeles Rams team. Now, they could turn the ball over twice, and this could be a completely different ball game. But I'll take the Rams in a bit of a shootout, and I think they get this one.
Another one that initially I was okay. The start of that Steelers Texans game,
mm-hmm.
I had a feeling that the Texans were going to win. Going into the second half, though, it was 7-6.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, these guys don't stand a chance against the Patriots.
Yeah,
and then they put up 30. So I don't know if that's just the Steelers secondary and defense overall being horrible, and the offense being horrible. Although that Steelers offense is horrible, I feel like but I mean the way that game sort of ended up, that makes me think that the Texans they've got a shot because that defense that is a good defense. That is a really good defense.
Yeah, man. The Texans defense, I think, is the best unit in these NFL playoffs. That's what I'll say. I've been saying it throughout this entire postseason. I think that's the biggest advantage anybody can have. And honestly, if all 4 of these teams left in the playoffs played fully healthy on neutral ground, I would pick the Houston Texans. I honestly would, because they have the only truly dominant unit left in this AFC for sure. Now, I think this game is a toss-up, though, simply because, 1, you have to travel to New England, and 2, it looks like Houston is going to be missing Nico Collins for this game, which is another blow to this offense, which, was able to find itself in the third and fourth quarter and actually have one of their best games per success rate of the entire season. They were able to run the ball really effectively. They were able to make big plays. But, CJ Stroud has had his struggles over the past couple of weeks. He had some struggles early in that game as a decision maker and in kind of rush pockets. He made some pretty boneheaded plays. And I don't think you're going to be able to afford to do that against this New England defense with, their secondary and their ability to create takeaways as a pass defense. So I think without Collins, that is a chance. There's a chance for this Texans offense to struggle. But I still lean taking Houston in this game just because I think their pass rushers are going to be able to wreck this game against this New England offensive line, which definitely, had its own respective woes last week against the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is a whole different ball game, a whole different defense. So, I mean, I'm truly leaning Houston in this one, and to me, they are the favorites in the AFC as of right now if they're able to come out of this one.
Yeah, no, they've been looking good, even though CJ Stroud didn't. That was really rough from him.
Yeah,
but like you said,
able to win around him,
this is what. But by the way, stay up like that. That positioning. When you're the lower third is kind of covering yourself when you talk.
That's good.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is sort of what the Eagles were supposed to be. What people imagined. They kind of, they kind of imagined this defense. The positive people imagine the defense of the Eagles kind of carrying the Eagles through the playoffs. Didn't happen, but we're talking a totally different ball game here. Yeah. All right. One more thing, and then we can definitely wrap things up. Just want to say real quick, thank you to all these viewers tonight. Not exactly sure what's going on, but we've got more. We've got a little bit more than usual, which I appreciate it. Let's talk about some Phils real quick before we wrap things up. Bichette. I think the last time we talked, he wasn't even on our radar. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. This is sort of how the Phillies work. I remember a few years ago when they signed JT Realmuto. You're going into January, nothing, and all of a sudden, there's one team's down, one team's out of the way, another team's out of the way, and all of a sudden, JT's a Philly. Mm-hmm. So I think this would be a huge boost, personally, for this offense. It really hushes down the they're gonna run it back crowd, because I think they realize now that Ranger Suarez is gone. Hey, this starting pitching staff, they're one or two injuries away from not being so hot. I'm not gonna lie. We've seen what Alec Boehm is like. He's your typical hit 280 in the regular season and then just fall off the face of the planet, in the playoffs. And the idea is that you end up trading Alec Boehm or letting JT Realmuto walk and then signing a catcher that's a little less money. Mm-hmm. The guy that comes to mind for me, Victor Caratini. He's a guy that hits about 250, 260. So would be a little bit it'd be the same offensively. A little bit of a downgrade on the defensive side of the ball, which I think a lot of people sort of take for granted. Him throwing out runners at second base, it's like nobody I've ever seen. But at the same time, man, like everybody talks about, oh, his pitch calling is insane. Then tell me why you elected to call a fastball against Teoscar Hernandez in Game 2 of the NLDS center cut. Doesn't seem like the greatest pitch to me after throwing up a bunch of sliders in the dirt and him missing in every single one. There were handfuls. There were handfuls of examples of that sort of thing. And then, yeah, there were moments where JT, got cold. And he's what, 35 years old? Catchers sort of they're going to degrade faster than the average player because they're taking it on the chin every single pitch. We saw a lot more, shots to him, I think, this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he is a guy that I think his days could be numbered, but at the same time, they could get a deal done, but not if you're kind of asking for what he's asking for. Apparently, he wants something like 20 million a year. He wants something in the 4-year range. I don't know. I'm just not there. I'm not personally. So I feel like you do go with Bo Bichette, and then you let Alec Bohm go, right? And then yes, sir, Bo Bichette, baby. Shout out Joey Havens. I was actually on last night for Under the Wing, another show here on Through Two Birds. Shout out him. Shout out Joe Donahue from Bird's Nest Media. He came on. Chaos Chris came on. Mooner came on. All the guys that the fans of Through Two would know and love. They came on. We had a blast. Check out my latest clip. I put out on my socials, on my Instagram at Jesse Sharon on Instagram. I got a little bit. I will not lie. I got a little bit triggered when people are calling for the Eagles to get rid of AJ Brown, because I think that would be kind of ridiculous. Still, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league, man. Come on. And you just get him a good offensive coordinator like we had with Kellen Moore, and look what we saw. Regardless, we're talking Phillies here for a second. Generally, if we were able to get Bo Bichette, what is your sort of outlook on the team? Is it one of are you all the way back, or is it listen, this team is what it is. They're a 95 win team, and they always go to the playoffs and then choke.
Yeah, Jesse, it's a great question. I think, as you start to look to kind of retool the young core for this Philadelphia Phillies team, you have to look a little more optimistically if this team's able to get Bo Bichette, right? I mean, the ability to set yourself up with a centerpiece like him. I've been watching him since he was young in Toronto, and his ability to, kind of grow as a player last season, despite the slump he had a season before. I think that's important to who he is in his career. And I think it sounds like he's only going to continue to grow in a much more hitter-friendly ballpark. So I think that's crucial. And yeah, you think about the future with Bryce, him, Trey, just all kind of growing together. That's incredible. And then I think about the fact that the Mets are probably going to end up signing Kyle Tucker, and he's going to end up a Toronto Blue Jay, and our dreams are going to be crushed. So,
Well, the thing is, I still think he's a Philly for two reasons. One, we've seen reports out there that he is getting a lot of short-term offers, and the Phillies are seemingly the only one that want to go, 5+ years, 5-6+ years. I mean, we've seen a lot of that with a lot of our other players. Bryce, Kyle Schwarber, Aaron Nola. Although I think that's a terrible contract. But the idea is, you pay him for longer, and the hit is less over, a single year compared to what the Mets are doing. They're trying to offer, Kyle Tucker, for example, $50 million a year, which is insane to me. But that's besides the point. I think Bo wants that sort of long-term stability. It's got a family. I think I've heard he's in Jersey, a Jersey kid. He just got married, which congratulations to him. But you've got that, and then Toronto's infield is already, I think, sort of. I'd have to go back and look, but there's a little bit of. I've heard there's a little bit of a logjam there, and a little bit less of a willingness to sort of trade some of their guys. And honestly, why would they? They just made it to the World. If you're Toronto, you just made it to the World Series. You can build off these sort of things. Like you go out there and get a Dylan Cease. There's a guy from Japan that they just, I think, brought over a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So if you're Toronto, you've already got a ton done. And I mean, losing Bo would suck. He's like one of your hometown guys, but I would be shocked, honestly, if Bo was in a Philly. Honestly, I would. And you just got to get the Bo thing figured, the Tucker situation figured out, because honestly, I think to me the biggest concern, it's not Toronto, it's the Mets, and the Mets, man, they're in a division, and they've got. I feel like if they wanted to trade Mark Vientos, who's their current third baseman, I think they would. And I think the thought is you put Bo at third, just like the Phillies might with Bo. If you trade Alec at third, which I don't think is, a bad thing at all. But I don't know. I worry about the Mets. I'm always worried. You've got Steve Cohen, dude.
Yeah.
He's it seems like he's throwing money on trees these days. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's all I got. But yeah, Adam, you got anything else?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. I think we're gonna have to watch this Kyle Tucker sweepstakes in the next day or two. I've been checking my phone constantly. I was thinking when you were talking about that, I was gonna get the New York Mets sign Kyle Tucker notification. That would have been really funny. But
I've got the sound effects ready. Yeah, yeah, but yeah,
I haven't gotten it yet. So
yeah, all right.
It's we'll find out, but it's an exciting time. I'm glad the off season's finally coming to a halt. We have 27 days. I was talking to my buddy. We have 27 days till pitchers report, and this still isn't sorted out, guys. Like that's kind of
ridiculous. How does the NFL do? How does the NFL do it? Like
the agency, like starts in March.
Yeah,
but
do they have a date? Like
there's no like cutoff date, but it's not smart to not do it before the NFL draft, because the NFL draft contracts take up so much of the salaries, whereas in baseball there's no salary cap, so it doesn't really matter. So it's definitely a lot different. But yeah,
just because I'm getting old, I really want like a date. Everybody signs by this date, and then
me too.
Let
me talk about it at that time. Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, but
it is.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. My phone is blowing up, not because of Bichette, other reason, but I keep thinking it's Bichette, but it's other stuff. So yeah. That's gonna wrap things up tonight. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Philly Sports Balls on 302 Birds. Shout out all our Delaware sponsors. Take Pick, Nick's Pizza. A lot,
Oh, Nick's Pizza is our sponsor?
one of them, yes.
I wasn't even aware of that. I love
Yeah.
Nick's Pizza. Shout out Nick's Pizza for sure.
Nick's Pizza is
Yep.
it is the bomb.
Yep, Nick's Pizza is the bomb. I was at Nick's Pizza a little bit ago. It is the bomb.
Yeah, so we got hang on. Let me go over my notes and see
the list.
who I gotta thank.
I saw Balboa Steaks. We love Balboa Steaks here.
You're a Balboa Steaks guy?
I am. I get my Broad Street bully. You know how it is.
Oh yeah. We have a segment that the main show does.
Yeah.
That KJ that it's called he calls it Knockout Takes, and Balboa Steaks sponsors that sucker.
That's fantastic.
That is, you guys gotta go back and watch the.
We're gonna get you a Broad Street bully, Jesse. It's gonna change your life.
What is it?
It's a cheesesteak with whiz, onions, hot peppers, and I think I don't want to say something wrong because they're our sponsor, but
right,
it's really incredible. That's the one. It's the best steak in Delaware. I'll tell you that.
You're gonna think I'm nuts, but I have very much unintentionally never gotten whiz on my cheesesteak ever.
It'll change your life.
I want to. It's not happened, but
it's gonna change your life. You're coming to Newark, Delaware with me. I promise you.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. That's a great way to end things. Alrighty, folks. That does it for tonight's show. Live on 302 Birds. Subscribe to all our stuff. The Twitter, the Instagram, Philly Sports Pulse on Instagram. Go follow myself, Jesse Sharon, Adam Dan on Instagram, all the different stuff. You know what to do. So go do it. That ends things for today. Have a good night, everybody. Go Phils and go Birds.
Signed by Bichette.
Absolutely.